Just kind of soft a little rock and roll. All right. Oops.
Ready?
Yeah, okay.
Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. We are at the New Orleans VooDoo practice right now as they prepare for their season opener against the Jacksonville Sharks. Saturday night, 7 p.m. at Smoothie King Center, live on 1280 a.m. on your AM dial. And this is a new-look VooDoo team, a lot of new players, a new coach in Dean Kokinos, and it's the great unknown. And, of course, Lenny, they'll be facing a veteran team in Jacksonville, so interesting to find out just how they get this thing going.
Yeah, you know, the good thing for the VooDoo is they play 6 of the first 7 games at home. The schedule is very front-loaded with home games, maybe give you a chance to get off to a good start. You know, like you say, the unknown, though, the arena game is one that you have to be able to kind of, you know, have experienced the arena game, so to speak. The 100-yard game is a lot different from the 50-yard game with some of the nuances of it. So it may take some of these players that are new to the game a little bit of time to get themselves more acclimated with what's going to be happening out there.
Adam Kennedy, returning quarterback. Brian Reeder, experienced quarterback. We'll see what happens on Saturday. Looks like Kennedy could be the guy, but it's a good competition with 2 guys who can really play the position unquestionably. And otherwise, you got a defensive secondary led by a couple of returning players in Cameron McGlenn and Justin Hanna, and some late additions to this team. And Garrett Lindholm, an all-league kicker previously, has arrived. So, again, this is a game that the rosters change pretty frequently.
It does, and there can be a lot of moving parts out there, and you can, again, because it's not as big a roster, it's not as big a field, it's not as many players on the field at one time that you can, you know, change pieces a little more if you need to, and, you know, get people into the system very quickly.
The New Orleans Pelicans, well, they've lost 4 straight after dropping 1 to Houston. Great first quarter and then collapsed the rest of the way against a really good team. And now they get subpar teams coming in, allegedly. And, Lenny, they're really at the point of no return. They have to win these next 3 against subpar teams or they've got no chance.
Really next 4. And your margin of error is completely gone at this point. And even then, even if you do everything right the rest of the way, you may have dug yourself so much of a hole that you may not be able to get out of it in terms of trying to catch Oklahoma City as you sit 3 out with 11 to play. And it'll be, be interesting to see, or I should say 3.5, but it'll be interesting to see, how the rest of this plays out. Honestly, the biggest concern isn't the 1-loss record in my mind. It was another injury to Anthony Davis, although he did come back in the game late. You have to wonder if there's something deep down that is worse with his shoulder than what anyone is leading you on to be. And if it gets down to it later in the year and he's, and the playoffs become out of the question or become unrealistic, is it time to then shut him down and try to get him ready for next year? And, if it involves surgery or whatever the case may be, not sitting here professing to be a doctor by any means, but this guy is the cornerstone of your franchise.
Missed opportunity with Oklahoma City and Phoenix both losing. And then there's the noise about John Calipari possibly wanting to return to the NBA. And a lot of people will speculate that if he does, New Orleans could be the place he'd like to come to, since probably his favorite player that he's coached is playing here. It's speculation and nothing but.
It's exactly at this point. But don't forget, not just Anthony Davis, but he also coached Tyreek Evans in college, albeit both of them for a year. There's some familiarity there without a doubt.
And clearly, the Pelicans have to win out, basically, to get anywhere. Where the Saints are concerned, Sean Payton reiterating the comments of Mickey Loomis that Drew Brees isn't on the trade block, but they haven't extended his contract, haven't asked him to take any renegotiation. So I still maintain that anything's possible. You never say never about anything, although Payton was pretty clear about draft needs when he spoke out at the NFL league meetings.
I would say this. Do I sound like Sean when I start like that? Well, I would say this. If you have someone that you think you can hand the reins to in 2 years' time, then there's no need to do anything at this point. Until you get to that point, if you don't get to that point, let's say through the draft this year, then I think you need to think about extending him for at least another year or two at that point. Saints, remember, have, 5 of the first 80 picks, 3 of the first 44 picks. There are some significant opportunities there, depending on how things fall in the draft, maybe trade opportunities, whatever the case may be, to get yourself a quarterback in the draft. If it's not a Marcus Mariota, maybe it's a Bruce Petty. It could be any number of guys that, are high on some boards out there that may be a guy that the brain trust on Airline Drive thinks could be an heir apparent to Breeze. If that can't happen through the draft, then I think you have to think about an extension.
And, of course, the latest on high school sports, baseball-wise. We've got a game on radio with Brother Martin at Holy Cross Friday night, 7 p.m. on WGSO 990 a.m. And our first NBC Bank Prep Showcase will resume next Monday with a game that was rescheduled after being rained out. It's a great rivalry game and 2 good teams in Holy Cross and Chalmette.
Holy Cross Chalmette, that's our first trip out to St. Bernard Parish. Should be a lot of fun. Before we get to then, though, we've got some basketball for you Saturday evening. Watch it here at SportsNOLA.com. Watch the re-airs on Sunday and Monday. It's the Bayou River All-Star Classic from down at Thibodeau High School. Boys and girls. Should be a lot of fun. It was an entertaining event last year, and looking forward to much the same. You can watch it live here Saturday evening at SportsNOLA.com. Sunday at noon, you can see the girls' game on WHNO Channel 20, and then Monday at 6 will be the boys' game.
Check out the latest LSU recruiting news with Renee Nato at SportsNOLA.com. And, of course, you can follow the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 at SportsNOLA.com this weekend. So a lot going on per usual. Look forward to it. Lenny, as always, a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
All right, we'll see you Monday.
That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.